invite you to take a look with me at the 7 energy centers of the body, also called the consciousness centers or chakras. What is their purpose and how do they affect our well-being?
We have heard that everything that exists is permeated and kept alive and evolves by a cosmic energy that we can call the all-power, all-spirit, flowing ether, or simply God, or love. This spirit energy also keeps our spiritual and material bodies alive and vibrant. But how does it do that? Our etheric body, our soul, corresponds more or less with our physical body. The center of our spiritual body is what the mystics call the nucleus of the soul. It is the spark of God, or God spark, and it is situated in the region of the crown of the head. And this spirit energy flows into our body through this nucleus. The energy then flows from the nucleus on the left side of the body along the spine down to the pelvic area into the so-called collective basin. Then the spirit powers flow again on the right side along the spine up to the nucleus of the soul. On its way, the spirit energy runs along 7 junction points of energy, which are also called consciousness centers, or in the East they are called chakras. The purpose of these consciousness centers is to distribute the spirit power through many ramified paths via the nerves to the individual organs of the body. So each center is supplying a certain area of our body with the spiritual energy via our nervous system. It is interesting to know that the 4th consciousness center, near our heart, it's a kind of switching and pumping station that draws the energy up from the collective basin and then sends them up to the nucleus. These 7 consciousness centers all have a certain ethical quality. They are the 7 divine powers of divine life. Starting from the bottom to the top, they are called order, will, wisdom, earnestness, patience, love, and mercy. Let's look at them individually. The first center is called order and is situated above the collective basin in the region of the coccyx. It feeds, among others, the sex organ, bladder, rectum, pelvis, with hip joints, knee and ankle joints. The second center is called divine will and is situated in the region of the sacrum, slightly behind and below the navel. It feeds the kidneys with the uterus, large intestine, and colon. The third center is called divine wisdom and is located in the lumbar region. It mainly feeds the spine with spinal cord, stomach, small intestines, liver, gallbladder, pancreas, and spleen. The fourth center is called earnestness. It is located between the shoulder blades near the heart. Naturally, it mainly feeds the heart, lungs, and bronchi, spinal cord, and ribs. In this center, there's a special power active, that is the Christ spark, which I spoke about in details in a separate video. This Christ light is an additional, supportive, redeeming, and healing power within us. Therefore, many mystics call this center also the Christ center. The fifth center is called patience or kindness, and it is in the region of the neck. It feeds the thymus, tonsils, thyroid gland, parathyroid, windpipe, larynx, throat, and teeth. The sixth center is called divine love and is between and behind the eyes. It feeds the eyes, ears, the organ of equilibrium, nose, pituitary gland, and pineal gland. Above it is the seventh center, which is called mercy or gentleness, and it is in the back of the head near the pituitary gland. It feeds mainly the cerebrum and the cerebellum. These consciousness centers are light-filled, pulsating and rotating structures in our spiritual body to provide every organ and every cell with the life-giving cosmic energy via the nervous system. In a healthy body, the spirit power flows to all parts of the organism without obstructions. It is only when an organ is no longer supplied with sufficient spiritual energy that illness arises. This happens when the respective energy center is blocked. Then the cells become sluggish and ill. How can these blockages happen? The reason is always our selfish or self-centered sensing, thinking, speaking, and acting, which is opposite to the selfless stream of life, the stream of love. For instance, any negative thought becomes immediately visible in our aura, that is, in the radiation of the soul, and then, if not transformed, enters the soul as burden. Such burdens overshadow the consciousness centers and prevent the divine spark energy from flowing freely and unobstructed to the organs and the cells. As I have said earlier, every consciousness center also has an ethical quality. Therefore, there is a direct correlation between certain wrong behaviors or thoughts and certain consciousness centers. So we can say that an illness of an organ is a violation of the divine ethical attribute, a violation against love. Let's look at some examples. For instance, we may have a health problem with our stomach. The question we might want to ask ourselves, what or who can't I stomach? Or what gets me in my gut? It can be fear, but it can also be anger, as we might be swallowing many things down like our anger. They lie in our stomach like a stone. These are the non-digested issues which we are not willing to look at and clear up. If we have problems with our ears, that usually means that there is something we don't want to hear and someone we don't want to listen to. For instance, earaches are very common with children who often have to listen to unpleasant stuff going on in the household which they really don't want to hear. Now, the same applies to problems with our eyes. There is most likely something we don't want to see, either about ourselves or about our past, present, or future life. We close our eyes to something which we should take a look at. I could go on and on with more examples, but Louise Hay understood this perfectly and pioneered a reference book that lists many of these mental patterns that cause a disease. Her book has become a classic and is called You Can Heal Your Life. Again, whenever we keep sensing, thinking, speaking, or acting against love, it builds up corresponding energy complexes that affect the respective consciousness centers and prevent it from giving a particular organ sufficient amount of spirit power via our nerves. And the result is an illness. Medicine may help, but as Paracelsus said, all healing comes from within. We have to clear up our soul burden first if we want a permanent healing. In addition, we have to change our sensing, thinking, speaking, and acting to become more positive and life-affirming. I've made several videos on this subject of karma and soul burden and will go deeper into the healing aspects in separate videos.
You can also read more about it in the book The Cause and Development of All Illness by Gabriele. You can find a link to this book on my recommended book page on my website lifeexplained.com. Yes, there are other spiritual paths that speak about these 7 consciousness centers or chakras, and they give them different names and qualities, but I always come back to these Christian mystical teachings because of their ingenious simplicity. They're easy to understand, simple clarity that works. No pomp and embellishments. That's why I like them. Keep well and keep healthy, and I'm